airport was unusually quiet that Halloween night. Most of the lights had dimmed and the once bustling terminal felt abandoned. My flight was supposed to leave hours ago, but a series of unexplained delays had stretched the evening into early morning. The board above the gate flickered with "delayed" for so long that I almost forgot what time it was. By 2 a.m., nearly everyone had been rebooked onto other flights or given hotel vouchers. The remaining few of us, those too tired, too broke, or too unlucky to find another option, waited in silence. I was among them, sitting slumped against my carry-on, half asleep, when the gate agent finally announced boarding. The cabin was emptier than I'd ever seen it. Fewer than 15 passengers scattered like ghosts across a plane built for 200. I chose a window seat in the front row, appreciating the rare solitude. The hum of the overhead fans and the faint rattle of luggage bins filled the silence. When the plane lifted off the runway, I felt a strange relief. Finally, we were leaving. We hadn't been in the air for more than 20 minutes when the flight attendant approached me. She was young, with sharp eyes that didn't seem to match the polite smile she wore. "Excuse me," she said softly. "Would you mind changing seats?" I blinked. "Oh, sure. Is there a problem?" She hesitated just long enough for me to notice. "Just a small adjustment," she said. "For balance." Her tone didn't convince me, but I didn't question it. I moved to a new seat further back, closer to a small cluster of other passengers. The attendant thanked me, her smile flickering in a way that didn't feel genuine. The moment I sat down, I noticed the mood had shifted. Conversations died mid-sentence. A woman across the aisle looked pale, clutching her seatbelt with white knuckles. A man beside her muttered something under his breath, shaking his head. I followed their gaze. That's when I saw him. A man sat upright in his seat, completely motionless. His skin looked almost translucent under the cabin lights. At first I thought he was asleep, but there was something unnatural about his stillness. No rise and fall of his chest. No breath fogging the cold air. My stomach turned. The realization was quiet but crushing. Someone had died during the delay. And now, we were flying beside him. No one spoke loudly after that. The flight attendants moved mechanically, avoiding that row as if it didn't exist. The one who'd asked me to move walked past once, her eyes flicking toward the body before darting away. I tried to distract myself, checked my phone, opened a book, but the Wi-Fi wouldn't connect, and every word on the page blurred together. The low hum of the engines filled the silence, and I found myself counting the seconds between the flickers of the seatbelt sign just to keep my mind busy. When the pilot announced we'd hit mild turbulence, I almost welcomed it. Anything to break the unbearable stillness. But then the lights flickered, once, twice, and the air seemed to grow colder. I stood and made my way to the restroom, telling myself I just needed a break from the tension. The hallway lights dimmed as I passed through the narrow aisle, each step echoing too loudly. Inside the restroom, the sound of the engines was muffled to a low vibration. I leaned against the sink, splashing water on my face, telling myself it was fine. People die on planes sometimes. The staff know what to do. It was morbid, yes, but safe. Then something slammed against the door. Thud. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. Thud. Thud. 3 heavy hits like someone pounding from the other side. The metal door rattled under the impact. I whispered, "Hello?" But the word barely left my mouth, then silence. I pressed my ear against the door. Nothing. No footsteps. No whispers. Just the faint hum of the engines. After a few seconds, I turned the lock and slowly opened the door. The aisle was empty. As I stepped out, the same flight attendant appeared, so suddenly that I nearly collided with her trolley. The wheels screeched to a stop inches from my feet. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she said with a practiced smile. But her eyes, they weren't smiling. I looked at her face, searching for any hint that she'd heard the banging, that she'd come to check on me, but she said nothing. She just continued pushing the trolley down the aisle, offering drinks to passengers who barely looked up. No one mentioned the sound. No one looked concerned. And for the first time, I felt a creeping certainty that whatever had been knocking wasn't something I wanted to understand. Hours passed, though it felt like days. I stayed awake, staring at the seat ahead of me, refusing to turn around. The cabin lights dimmed again as we began our descent, the announcement chime echoing through the silence. That's when I noticed something strange. The row where the dead man had been sitting was empty. No body. No passengers nearby. The seatbelt still buckled, but the space, empty. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, but it didn't change. The body was gone. I turned to the flight attendant, who stood quietly near the cockpit door, her face unreadable. Where is he?" I asked. My voice cracked, her expression didn't change. She tilted her head slightly as if she didn't understand the question. "There's no one seated there, sir," she said. "But I saw—" She cut me off with a gentle, practiced smile. "We'll be landing soon. Please return to your seat." The wheels touched down smoothly, the plane gliding across the wet runway. The passengers remained eerily silent as we taxied to the gate. When the doors finally opened, everyone hurried out, no chatter, no laughter, just the sound of footsteps fading into the terminal. I lingered for a moment, watching the flight attendant as she stood by the exit. She gave me that same polite, empty smile. "Happy Halloween," she said softly. The words made my skin crawl. As I stepped into the terminal, I glanced back one last time. Through the cabin window, I could see the interior of the plane dimly lit by the emergency lights. And there, in the last row, barely visible in the dark, was the silhouette of someone sitting perfectly still. Weeks later, curiosity got the better of me. I searched for news about that flight, any record of a death on board. But there was nothing. No mention of an incident, no emergency landing, no report at all. It was as if that passenger never existed. But every now and then, when I close my eyes, I can still feel the vibration of that door beneath my hand, and hear the dull, heavy thud echoing in the silence of the cabin.